Hi folks, this is Dave Wright, Chairman of Victor Hiking Trails, located in Victor, New York. Today we're going to be hiking at Mertensia Park and up on the Auburn Trail. In addition to creating and maintaining trails in Victor, once a month we lead a guided hike either in Victor or somewhere near Victor. Today we expect to have about 15 hikers. That's pretty typical for our monthly hikes. Most of our guided hikes are on the second Saturday of the month. One main exception is National Trails Day. That's the first Saturday in June. And typically we'll get 50 people to come out for that because it's an all-day affair with 3 hikes during the day, snacks, water, lunch, the works. Here comes our leader for today's hike, Chauncey Young, with his special truck. So we're going to start our hike. Going to head over to Mud Creek, see what that's all about.
Woodworking shop, or his canoe shop. So it comes all the way down to here, joins up with Fish Creek and a couple other creeks. It becomes Ganganero. Ganganero goes down to the Palmyra. Palmyra goes to under the canal, joins into the Lyons River, and then the Central River, and then disappears into, I think, the Oswego River out to Ontario.
The Auburn Railroad was built in the 1840s. This is pretty typical of their construction, where they had to go over a creek. Just like the Romans, they would build an arch out of wood and then place all the stones. We're going to follow along Mud Creek, along this trail for a little ways. Here's a nice bench that was dedicated to a friend of ours. We're gonna head up to the Auburn Trail now and see what the tread is like. The road went through here. Of course, these houses weren't here. The Auburn stopped in the 1960s. These houses were probably built right around 2000. So the town of Farmington secured the rights to the railroad bed with the thought that someday we might have a road where the railroad used to be, but right now it's just a trail. This is Fountain Hill Road, County Road 41. The town has a nice crosswalk with a pedestrian button so that we can cross safely. This is typical of the nice signs that the town put in so people know where they're headed. This is a section where the railroad went over a small creek, so there's some drop-offs on either side. So the town of Farmington decided it would be nice to have some railings on both sides, keep people on the trail and keep them safe. The creek is really muddy with all this spring rain and snowmelt that we've had. This section of the Auburn Trail goes all the way to Route 332, and then it takes to a turn to the right, goes all the way up to the Farmington Canandaigua Town Line Road, takes another right. Then you can follow the trail to the right through Auburn Creek Development and back onto the Auburn. This marker is left over from the days of the railroad. It would tell the engineer how far it is to Syracuse by way of Auburn. This is an original one. It is now used as a trail marker. This is one of the signs that the town of Farmington has installed to let you know you're on the Auburn Trail. Here's a little branch trail off of the Auburn, typical in Farmington to provide access from the neighborhoods to the Auburn Trail. So it's a great place to have a house, to live. There's also actually a small pond here that will attract wildlife. They're in the process of doing the same thing on this side of the trail, providing access from that neighborhood. This is a road crossing. Road takes you into Auburn Meadows development. There's a small parking lot here for people that want to use the trail. And there's usually not much traffic here, so it's great for bike riding. Up ahead on the left is a trail that leads over to the Cobblestone Arts Center. It's a facility that accommodates mentally and physically challenged people, gives them a opportunity to express themselves musically and by art. We're heading back now towards Farmington, towards Mertensia Park. Here is something you typically won't see on a trail. These are round concrete fence posts that were put up by the railroad. There would be a fence all along the railroad to keep people off of the railroad. Many of those concrete fence posts were made in Fishers, New York. It's a hamlet of Victor, New York, and it's where the Auburn is headed if you're going in this direction, north or northwest. In the 1920s, the Auburn line transported freight and people. At that time, there was also the Rochester and Eastern Rapid Railway, an electric car that went on tracks. That went from Geneva to Rochester. And then you also had the Lehigh Valley Railroad. They had a branch that went from Mendon, Rush area called Rochester Junction, downtown, all the way to downtown Rochester. So you had three rails going from Victor to Rochester. The towns of Victor and Farmington are two of the fastest growing towns in New York State. You can see that by all of the development happening in Farmington. This is another access point from the development on 332 to the Auburn Trail. This access trail was built after these houses were built, but it's another area that allows people in the neighborhood to have good access to the Auburn Trail. Now we're back to County Road 41, Boughton Hill Road. I'm going to cross at the crosswalk. We are back to Mertensia Park. If we had gone all the way to 332 and up to the Town Line Road and headed west on Town Line Road to make a loop and then back, it would have been about 5 miles. As it was, we went as far as Cobblestone Arts Center and back. So that's only a distance of 3.3 miles. So out and back to Cobblestone Arts Center and back 3.3 miles. To continue on the Auburn, still heading west towards Victor, and I'll show you a future project. We are now passing over Mud Creek, looking down onto Mertensia Park. And the word Mertensia means bluebells. So if you were to come here in the middle of May, you will see fields and fields of bluebells along Mud Creek on both sides. About 150 yards west of Mud Creek, you'll see a trail going off to the right. There's also a concrete structure. This property is currently privately owned, but the landowner is working with a developer who will put in 85 new homes on what is now farmland. Approximately 60 acres will be donated to the Genesee Land Trust, and a partnership between the Genesee Land Trust and Victor Hiking Trails is being developed so that we can partner together and develop trails along. Enjoy these videos. I encourage you to hit the subscribe button and leave your comments, good and bad.